Steve, you got mic going? You able to speak?
Mate, I'm here with my AirPods.
Noise, and
So
that
I
works.
apologize for the quality.
It's actually good, man. I mean, it's the standard, you know. It's like when I hear your voice, it's like, oh man, that's you. It's good. I don't even know what you would sound like if you had like 10x quality.
Yeah, I don't think it would be something you want to listen to. I think it's a thing with like ASMR, right? And audio. Like you can forgive video to a degree, but audio is like unforgivable. It has to be good quality. So like I sit in my studio, I look at my setup, and then I join a Twitter space and I put my AirPods in, and I just think, oh man, what a waste. So I totally
Yeah,
respect what you're doing, and I understand it. It makes such a difference.
it does, man. Like from my meetings and everything, I could just totally tell. I even just get more just attention, influence, and just get my point across. It's interesting. I used to never believe in it until I tried it, and I was like, wow, totally worth it. I think Gru is still getting up here. We'll see, and we'll just still give a few minutes here. So everybody definitely give us a little comment at the bottom. Do some questions. Anything you want to know about Big Time? Any thoughts? Any feelings? We're actually going to be doing a more casual conversation today. We don't really have an agenda. We really just wanted to be raw and have like an open conversation about our thoughts. So it could be completely messy, it could be completely clean. We're going to find out as we go down the rabbit hole here. But let's just give everybody just a couple more minutes, give Gru a couple more minutes here to get up, and we'll see how this goes. But I'm excited to talk about Big Time.
I think also, just to preface this, it would be really good to consider multiple perspectives because there's always the echo chamber, right? Especially in Web3, where everyone's on that bandwagon of hype and delusion of wow, everything's so crazy, we're going to the moon, and oh my god, everything's in the gutter, we're getting rugged. I think it's good to have some balance and some perspectives. So maybe we can look at both sides of it today, not just the hype and the mania, but also some of the challenges, but not from a negative perspective, like from a healthy debate.
Totally agree. I think we went with the clickbaity title, the Web3 gaming comeback. I think that was
That
marketing's
that's
choice,
not
but I
even clickbait.
totally agree.
That's not even clickbait.
I know,
I
right?
genuinely believe that Big Time has an opportunity to revive the whole play and earn side of things, but we'll get into that. We'll see. It's an interest. Look, for a long time I've said play and earn's dead, but I'm seeing things that are interesting here, and I'm not saying it's going to work, but I'm not saying it's not either. We'll see.
Noise. You sound like you're debating with yourself already, man.
I look. I put it to bed. It was dead. I let my assets go. I let my investments go. I considered everything was on the floor and it wasn't coming back. And yes, we want a new bull cycle, but who knows what's going to happen? Yes, we've all got hopes. We've all got that copium, but reality is we don't know what's going to happen. But what's happening at the moment is there is a game studio out there that is defining a new era of moving forward, and I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful for what they can do, and I'm excited to explore that again today.
Love it. I love hope. Anybody that's got it, I'm pretty happy about that. Maybe as we wait for Guru, we just do a quick round of intros, make sure this recording and this audience kind of knows, who's on the stage. Yeah, Guru, we're talking on the side. He should be here any second. He's just getting slightly rugged. But I'll just go first real quick. So I'm the founder of Vern Alliance, been in the gaming industry for about 20 years now, which means that I was 9 years old when I started. And that was me modding StarCraft maps and making mods and then doing private servers and then building 3 game companies. Done everything but PlayStation and Xbox. So I'm not a big consoles guy. I'm more PC, mobile. Second largest real money casino, sold it to PokerStars and did a platform as a service business. Kinto Hub, sold that to Square and Block. Yeah, definitely been around the block. I love games, and we're building Earn Alliance, which is a Web3 game aggregator and discoverability platform, and NFT Launchpad, and soon marketplace aggregator. So a lot going on there. Definitely check it out. But let's pass the mic to Web3 Wesley, who was actually, before you speak, the person's first YouTube video that I watched when I got in the Web3 space was Wesley talking about Axes. I wouldn't be here actually without him. So super stoked to have you here.
I appreciate that. That was quite the setup there. Yeah, so as you may have figured, I make content around Web3 gaming. I've been in crypto as a retail investor, very long time mining Bitcoin in my basement in 2014. Kind of just always on the sidelines, and it was really NFT, that gaming, that hooked me in and kind of shifted a career from a very traditional taking companies public in Canada marketing and operations side to working for, now I work for Web3 VC, and I'm also analyst and community manager over at Wolves DAO, for those familiar with the Web3 gaming space. And I make content on the side, as well as run some marketing and consulting for various games at the moment as well, and in and outside of our portfolio companies. So, and yeah, talked to Coop many times over the past couple of years now, with keeping up with the progress of Earn Alliance, because I think we're in the same mindset of just moving this space forward and trying to make it a better space for gamers and for the crypto space. So happy to be here, happy to contribute to this space.
Thanks, man. Super stoked that you made it. I know that I think you just got out of another space, so appreciate your time. Steve, man, give it away, man. Let's hear it all.
What's up, man? I firstly just want to say, like, thank you to Wesley, man. You're a legend. You are, again, one of the people that I remember when I moved across into the Web3 gaming space, and your videos were some of the first videos that I watched in the time, especially when I was breeding Axie and paying, I don't know, what was it, like half an ETH for a friggin' Axie back in the day. I remember those days; they were fun times. But yeah, you were definitely one of those people, and I respect you for that. And it's good to be able to connect and share the space with you. A lot of respect for you. I'm Steve. I got in. So in the army, I used to use it for secure communications. So then when Bitcoin came out, I loved the idea of, like, I already knew crypto, and I loved the idea of disrupting the financial industry, because, why not? So putting the two together, I was interested, but it was a bit scammy at the beginning. So like an idiot, I didn't get involved until same time as Wesley, actually. About 2014, I bought Bitcoin, and then I sat on it. And it wasn't until 2020 I was looking for a hedge, because I knew the bear market was coming up. I wanted to diversify. So I dumped a portion of my money into NFTs and rode it all the way down to nothing. So I invested in multiple different projects, and one of them, which most people know me for, was Sunflower Land. We were able to crash Polygon for an entire week. It died, and at that point we realized that it was a layer 2 scaling solution that couldn't scale. I spent the next kind of 12 to 18 months building that community from like 1,000 people in Discord up to 200,000 members. Helped the game relaunch, and yeah, I've just been advising different projects, investing in different projects, working in the Web3 space. I also have a business outside of crypto that I work on, and a couple of charities I'm involved in. So I'm kind of busy, do a lot of stuff, but I love gaming. Gaming's my passion. I'm a Dota player at heart, and I'm interested in anything where there's the potential to help people. And through my guild, we built schools, communities. We help people through that time when crypto was booming, and I'm looking forward to do that again in the next bull cycle. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, just glad to be here, guys.
Sick, man. Yeah, you're definitely juggling. Didn't realize you're also in the charity. If you don't mind, what type of charity, without going too far on the rabbit hole?
Yeah, that's fine. So I was, because I used to build websites. That's one of my other companies. I've got a web design company, and so from the tech side of things, I was the digital advisor for a global company called Global Angels. Molly Bedingfield is the ambassador for that. Her children are actually known. Natasha Bedingfield. Some of you might listen to her music. Daniel Bedingfield, if you know UK Garage. They're kind of they're artists in the music space. So their mum, I work with her for her charity with Bear Grylls. He's an ambassador, and a lot of other people. So that's amazing. My partner also works for an ethical and sustainable fashion charity. So the Ethical Brand Directory, which is a kind of got a non-profit arm that I do the tech side of advising on that as well. And yeah, just anything like that where I can help out. It's not anything like more than the tech side of things, really. I'm just good at tech, really, and so that's kind of always been my passion. So I help out where I can.
Sick, man. Cool. Learning things about everybody every day. Everybody's got these different backgrounds in this space. That's what I love about Web3. But I think this was perfect because we got Guru raising his hand. Let's see if his mic works.
All right, I'm testing. Can you guys hear me? Anybody at all?
Yeah. I was going to play a joke, but I don't want to waste time. Yeah.
Well, I'm happy you can hear me. I'm probably not using my top quality mic, but that's because I think Twitter, for some reason, or X, is just unable to take that kind of audio input right now. So I got to do some fiddling. Either way, I am so happy to be in here. I will give you guys a very quick introduction, although obviously you've probably heard me up here on Spaces talking with Coop and the Earn Alliance team plenty of times. I'm usually the one hosting these spaces. Today, I'm of course getting help from the man himself. So thank you, Coop, for helping out in the beginning here while I was getting rugged. But yeah, I'm Guru. I've been in the Web3 gaming space for about 3.5 years now. I started off as very much just a dabbler, didn't really think too much of it, but I'm a gamer. And I saw this new technology being experimented with Axie Infinity, decided to dabble in it, made some YouTube videos. One thing led to another. And now, of course, I'm working behind the scenes as well as on the front line, trying to pioneer the future of gaming. So, one of those games, actually, that I got into quite early with my community, MTTM, was none other than Big Time. So I know the team pretty well. I've played the game from very, very early on, and seeing this new rise, I guess you could call it, after the recent token release, it really got me excited. So much so that I currently have the game downloading in the background while we are on the space, so I can play it again and hopefully get the boys back into it, because it seems like we might not have as many or as much trouble finding a fill-in when we're missing somebody, because it is sometimes hard to round people up around the world to raid dungeons. So yeah, really excited to chat a little bit more about this, but I don't know exactly where we were at the moment. I think we were probably just finishing up introductions, but I know a lot of people have some amazing points, and I don't want to feel like I'm leading the space in some sort of way. It's very much conversational. So guys, however we want to run into this, feel free to. And I got some points I want to bring up as well. So I don't know where we're at. Coop, if you want to start with a few things. I know you've been really diving deep into Big Time, as well as Steve. Steve, man, you've got so much information. I can't wait to hear some of your points and some of your opinions on it, because I think it's going to be some pretty good alpha for me to be taking my first couple steps back into the game with.
Yeah, I think we've all, are pretty big speakers in the space and avid on this. So I would say, like, if you really have a point or an idea, just raise your hand, and whoever's speaking, just be aware of, like, the other people that want to speak, and, just pass the mic whenever it makes sense and say, oh yeah, saw your hand, like, Wesley, you got something to say, or what's your thought? Yeah, let's just treat this as we're at a coffee table and we're just having a chat, even though it's like really late and I'm not gonna drink any coffee right now, and see where it goes. So I will start with.
I was just gonna put
was
my
that?
hand up because I was gonna say, can devs do something? Because anyone seen the token price? Why are we being rugged?
Yeah. I don't know if I could do anything, but yeah, man. Right now, I think we could start off with. It was funny when all this stuff was happening in the last few days. I went to go ahead and do some research, and I like looked up on YouTube, of course. Give me the basics and high level of Big Time, and I found Steve's video, which was posted like a couple hours before. And then I pinged Steve, and he's like, share me his video right away. He's like, oh, man, have you studied it? I'm like, I already seen this. Like, so we're pretty much on the same wavelength as like things were going. But I think Steve, what he shared in his video, which we should definitely highlight in the space in a moment, really just helped me catch up to it. So how about Steve, kick us off here? What's your, what's been the last 72 hours for you, and what inspired you to make that video? Just kind of curious, like, where that all came from.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. So the last 72 hours have been pretty painful for me because I've been deploying assets into the game, and there's some limitations that I'm starting to find. I don't know what a lot of other players are doing at the moment, so I'm speaking to quite a few people, but I sat last night and deployed 125 spaces into my metaverse, and it was painful. And that was like 20% of what we've got to put out there. So I don't think it's going to be possible. And I spoke to the team and realized there's some upper limits at the moment on what you can deploy in terms of assets. So it's fun. I like breaking systems. And I think this is one of the things that people really have to remember. And when you play the game and you load it up for the first time, there's a big disclaimer that pops up and says, this is early access, which I know those two words are kind of ignored these days because every game is in early access forever and nothing ever seems to come out of beta. But this genuinely is in early access. It's a pre-season launch. It's still a bit buggy. Servers are a bit laggy. There's a few challenges. And I think it's really, really important to remember that and not get swept up and carried away with the economy being live and all of these now financial experts that are coming in late to try and sweep the floor and tell people how to play the game. I think it's important, for people to be realistic and remember that some of us got into this game over 2 years ago. Some of us were playing an early version of this game 2 years ago and bought the top and have been sitting there while the assets went into the gutter, waiting for this moment to be able to enjoy and share this with people. And so I really wanted to create a video that was not the hyped up that you're seeing a lot of like clickbaity titles. I'm nothing against that, but I just wanted people to know that this is not a typical play to earn game. Any other game out there that's been a play to earn game, you've typically been able to get into it as a scholar or in some form, and you've been able to use assets that someone else has bought, and those assets, let's be honest, are pretty much going to zero, and people are trying to extract as quickly as they can to recover their money and make some profits. That's the typical Web3 model that we've experienced so far. We saw it with Axie, and I'm not knocking them because Axie were pioneers in the space. They did incredible things, but the model was flawed, and everyone that copied it has been screwed thereafter. The one defining thing that Big Time does differently that I think is it separates the free-to-play game, because there is a completely free-to-play game that you do not need any financial investment at all, so you can play. And it's quite fun. It is a fun game. There's still a lot more that needs to be done, but it's fun. You can enjoy it. It takes that.
It's early access.
Yeah, exactly. It's early access, but it takes that and it changes play and earn into pay and earn. And I think the key there is that if you want to earn money in this game, you need to pay. And I'm not talking about buying an NFT, an overpriced NFT, and then trying to utilize that. If I want to earn money in this game, I need to buy a premium currency, which is not a crypto asset. It is no different than going into a mobile app and buying crystals to speed up a process in a game. You have to buy a premium currency to be able to make money in this game. And that one defining factor on its own, and there are multiple, by the way, that make this potentially successful, but that one thing on its own, because I'm paying real money to be able to earn money, I value that more than if I was just given an asset for free for someone and I was going to extract and grind it down to zero. So it really changes the dynamic on the price of this token. And I saw people doing TA on this token on day one, going, this token's six hours old now, and we can see by this head and shoulders that's forming on this 5-second candle. And it's like you can't listen to these people that are doing that. It's not possible. We're in discovery mode. We're in hype. Of course, the token's overinflated at the moment, and of course, it's more valuable than it's supposed to be, and that's why people are making the most of it and why the hype's there. And of course, it's going to settle down. People are going crazy over a 35% pullback when it's still 250% up on the week. I mean, it's insane when you look at where it is. It's totally blown the expectations of the team, and now they're adjusting. But the only way you can earn money is to go into these dungeons, which you need NFTs. You need NFTs equipped to go into these dungeons. The only way to get these NFTs is it's a player-crafted economy. Now, the players that are crafting have to pay to be able to craft that. It adds a whole new level of value that's underpinned by fiat currency, which stops it tanking to zero as long as people can sustain that. And as long as a team can do that, and that's a big ask, and that's where we are, I think it's a very interesting model that they built, and I think it has real potential.
Yeah, I'm digging it. I just want to comment on it. I know I'm sounding like a host right now, but I just gotta say, like, I got excited about Axie Infinity because it brought in what I call the new player. I call them the monsters, because you have like dolphins, minnows, and whales when you're designing games, which spend $2 to $20 to hundreds of dollars, but in Axie, there's this new group of people that spent millions of dollars on assets, and that's where the $1 billion economy was created, and then the game developers were extracting fees for each of these transactions and making the revenue there. So what Steve's sharing here is actually pretty key, because we are now reintroducing revenue from the gamers, right? Which is like traditional free to play. They're going to be spending money to continue to buy these currencies to be able to speed things up. and you're kind of merging both worlds. And I really think that getting it from the gamers and from, the Web3 enthusiasts and mixing that up is the future. So I'm really excited to kind of observe this. Like Steve's saying, it's super early, but I have like no clue where it's going to go. But it's exciting because this is exactly what I was thinking was going to happen. What's up, Guru?
Okay, so one thing. First off, I really like that I've gotten a little bit of a spark notes on some of the tokenomics elements here, because again, I'm a little bit rusty on that. I was reading through recently, but there's been so many changes that I think some of it obviously is falling through the cracks while I'm trying to get a gist of it. But the one thing that I've noticed, and I mean, feel free to correct me if I'm wrong on any of this, but I have noticed that previously Big Time really had this very early access feel where it was like, hey, here's our MVP. We just want to create a bit of a proof of concept around this game loop. Content was light. All of the NFTs were very, very insubstantial, right? They were simply cosmetic. There wasn't anything to them. There was no element of necessity in the game. It was simply, if you wanted something that looked dope, you could either acquire or purchase off the market, and you could put it on your character. There was literally zero utility to it. And I still, by the way, ended up actually getting and selling a couple of NFTs. I sold a title once, and I used some of those funds to buy myself a katana. So nice. I feel very accomplished by that. But what I'm seeing now, and I think this is one of the biggest changes, because they're creating a necessity factor around these NFTs. And I find it very interesting because wherein you previously looked at the NFTs themselves as just simply cosmetic, now they not only are a great cosmetic upgrade to your character, which I think is amazing because personalization is very good, but they actually give you added access and added opportunity to experience and engage with game loops that are actually tied to this earning engine, to this emissions and sync that they have set up with the Big Time token, tokenomics, the spaces, etc., and of course the forge, because I know the forge is a very big part here. Everybody's kind of racing to be able to craft some of the most rare stuff and be able to distribute that for probably a mix of speculative and utility needs. But I think this is a very interesting model. The one thing that I'm curious about here, though, is I think one of the underlying factors of this being successful long term, even midterm, is really that you need to have enough content to be able to give people this feeling of the grind is not unnecessarily dry. And I think this is one of the things that I'm concerned about, and this is why I want to play the game, is that when I first played Big Time, I did feel like the end game came very quickly and the grind was a little dry. And I'm just curious now, I don't know if you've had a chance to play it too much, Steve. What is it like? Have they completely doubled, tripled the amount of content, the dungeons, the mobs? Have they added much more like dynamics to the bosses or the end game experience here? Like, what have you had for an opportunity to experience that? And do you feel like it's been upgraded since the previous model? Because that is one of the things I'm very curious about.
Yeah, absolutely. And great questions. I don't want to talk too much because I want to let obviously other people talk as well. But I will just mention that I played this game at the very start. I was grinding 6 to 8 hours a day for 6 weeks during Gold Pass. So I have that experience, and I'm now playing it 6 to 8 hours a day for the last week, grinding since pre-season. So I've been able to compare the difference, and I love the fact that they have. So I don't want to give anything away. I don't want to ruin anything. But what I will say is that there is now chapter 3. So there is like this story that's evolving, which involves. So the concept of the game, for those that don't know and don't understand, it's all around time, and it's got some incredible metaphors and some great, you know. Elements of the game that really get you to think. But the basic concept is an RPG game. It's a dungeon clearing based game, but you're gonna be fighting the time space continuum. There's rifts in time. You might be in the past fighting dinosaurs. You might be in the future fighting robots. You might be somewhere in the middle fighting dinosaur robots. There's like a lot of different elements of this game. You'll even be dealing with like a futuristic Ben Franklin. There's some crazy story that's starting to build. But what I experienced, and what anyone will experience if you play now, is that at the end of chapter 3, which is the new chapter they've just released, and again, I'm not going to ruin it, and there is still work that needs to be done to the quality of the user experience. There is still some, like, the initial start is good. There's still bugs, but there's like a 30-minute when you jump in now, there's a whole first-time user experience, which needs work, it needs polishing, but it's there. It's getting better, but at the end of chapter 3, when you fight the boss, because there's bosses and things that you have to fight, that boss fight was so, like, amazing. It gave me WoW vibes. It gave me just this hope of what they can do and where they can go, and everything from the audio to the strategy to the fighting dynamics. It just felt great, and it just showed you what's possible, and it was really a cliffhanger of where we can go with this. I am super excited for how they're going to, like, when they get on their content bandwagon and they start pumping out content for this game, and we have seasons and we have a lot of stuff. Of course, there's going to be the monetary asset of go and craft these skins and go and buy some premium crystals and put some money in our pocket. I don't mind that. If they're delivering on the content and creating an incredible game experience that isn't laggy and isn't buggy, I'm okay with them making money. So I think it's going to go hand in hand. And I'm really interested to see how the story progresses, because I think that for a game to be great, it's okay to be repetitive, because the dungeons there's a lot more variety now, and it's a lot harder to grind. Like, you can't just cheese it up to level 60 now and go and fight in the Ice Palace like you used to. You know, it's a real hard grind, even to get to level 30, and 30 to 40 is just pain. I mean, the only gamers that I've seen that are actually at level 50 plus at the moment are like the hardcore Korean gamers who are just, superhuman. But apart from that, at the moment, it's great to watch. There's a lot of potential there. I think what's going to be fascinating as we move forward is how they integrate the story, because for me, a game has to have a competitive edge, it has to have a great story, and it has to have a social aspect. I have made some incredible friends socially playing with people in guilds, because this is not a single player game. You are going to struggle playing this on your own. You need friends. And if you don't have friends, you can find them, because there's a lot of people without friends that come together. So you need friends. You need that social element. And the story's coming. It is there, but it's coming. And the competitive side, I'm waiting for.
Yeah, that's cool. Just out of curiosity, the raid boss at the end, when you say WoW vibes, like, did you guys have to like really organize, like, you and this group? Because you kind of answered my first question, was like, did you solo it? But obviously you had a group.
I actually did it with one other.
But how hardcore is it?
I did it with one other. It's not super hardcore. You can play this game with 2 people. I mean, you can play it solo, but it's better with 2. And the more people, the more rewards you get. So up to 6 is ideal, but whatever. You can play it with 2.
Got it.
It's not super hard. It's got more of an arcade feel, like it's just meant to keep you engaged. But as you progress, yes, there are you can't just like Leroy into the middle of a fight. Well, you can, but if you don't have a healer with you, you're screwed. And so there are elements where you definitely do that. And there's other elements where if you don't think strategically about how you're going to attack a fight, you're going to end up getting wrecked. And we've seen it time and time again. So there's a lot more strategic gameplay starting to evolve. It's still got a lot of, like, the gameplay mechanics still need work. They're not there yet. There's 2 new classes that are being introduced. So there's going to be 6 instead of 4. There's a lot of work that needs to be done and balancing that needs to be done, but it's definitely getting there and it's on the right tracks.
That's cool. So Wesley, I know you're chilling, man. So, like, what happens when a game like this kind of comes back from, the depths of the earth and spawns up like a zombie infestation? Do you guys like all howl and call a meeting and the wolves and like have a discussion about what's going on? Like, kind of curious from a wolves perspective, and also you personally, like, what happened once Big Time kind of showed off what's happening here?
Yeah, so I'll throw a few ideas out there, because we've talked about some good topics here already. And I think, Wolves DAO, we immediately put out a thread, and I made a video too. And honestly, the video is a somewhat negative, and I was trying to be as like unbiased as possible, but always my own biases shine through here and there whenever I put out opinions, and same with the Wolves. But we were a little focused around the token. And I think it's great to hear Steve talk about the game, because, like, full disclosure, I've only played a little bit. I never got super into Big Time, so I've only played, a couple hours of it myself. And I've always heard that the gameplay is good. I think compared to I would definitely consider it top tier considering some of the stuff we have in Web3 at the moment. And so the conversation around the Wolves DAO lately, and like the thing that I've been very focused on, has been the token. Not so much because we want to talk about tokens all the time, because gameplay is honestly more exciting. But I think the token has been the driving force behind the hype, right? It's been launching the economy that brings all the speculators in. That, like Steve said, you get all these people making videos about, putting line charts and talking about what's going to happen with the token. And honestly, we just started talking internally like this is all kind of ridiculous for a few reasons. And one of them is Big Time doesn't actually have any tokenomics officially disclosed, and there are some conflicting stuff on their main website versus what OKX said as well, which to me was a little bit sus in some ways. And I would like to get some clarity around that, because I was just telling you, like, I'm hopeful for the future. I want to invest in some gaming tokens, but for me, if you're not earning it, if you're not playing the game, if you're not having fun, it's not a token I would buy, right? Just because there's too much uncertainty. And, I've been around crypto for a long time, and when there's uncertainty, anything can happen, right? And that's when you get into dangerous territory. And it's not even malicious, right? It's not even malicious, because sometimes it's just the tokenomics weren't set up in a way to have all the fail safes necessary, right? And we're also at such a small portion of the circulating supply out already that who knows what's going to happen down the road, right? And so a lot of the conversations in the Wolf DAO have been revolving around this token, and the conversation of, when's the right time to launch a token, because it's a bear market, right? And they put this token out anyways, and things about how do you launch a token, and so that's been the focus more than the gameplay. And I touched on this a little bit in my video, and I think it's a bit of a shame that the conversation has been so token heavy, because I'd rather be having conversations about the game mechanics, right? As a gamer, like, I love crypto. I get enthusiastic about economics and tokenomics because that's where my degree is. But I do prefer gameplay. I love gameplay, and a good game is more fun to talk about than some of the tokenomic aspects. But that's what the conversation has kind of been revolving around. And just like circling back to play to earn, I think there's a lot we can say there too, because play to earn gaming, like, even that term has fallen out of fashion. But talking to certain teams like the Scotty Mavis team, I know they still strongly believe in play to earn. And I've always thought that it has a place. I think it has, like, there are situations where it can work, right? And it just has to be, it's all about balancing the economy, because you can't have everyone trying to extract value. And even when you have people putting in money to back, if they have to buy tokens to earn more, it can't all be revolved around earning, right? And I think there has to be aspects of cosmetics. There has to be aspects of people who want to pay to save time, and people who want to grind to earn money, right? And that kind of has to be a balancing factor. And so I think Big Time has some interesting elements for sure. And I'm very curious to see how this pans out in the long term. But I've been rambling on for a second here on a few different topics, because the conversations have really been around the tokenomics. And I think I'm curious to hear everyone's take on how this is going to go. And one of the questions I was going to bring up for the space too is, like, how long do we think this narrative is going to last? Because, the Web3 gaming comeback, are we there, or is this a temporary hype, and how long is this going to last? Especially with, ZTX following Big Time as well, launching token airdrops for people has brought a lot of interest in this space. But as the token price has already started to drop, right? And I know yesterday, maybe Steve can speak on this more. I know they cut the rewards back a very drastic amount as well in terms of what people are earning. And I'm wondering how long, if this hype is going to stay in the narrative. So anyways, a few different topics there, but I'll let someone else speak, and we can go back and forth.
Yeah, of course. Kind of jumping off you while Guru gets back up here too. Some of my buddies asked me for a coffee yesterday at Satori Research, and we sat down. They kind of walked through their research on the whole token, and from their perspective, 1.8% of what is in circulation is market makers. So I totally agree. Like, what we're looking at right now in terms of what's out there, and it's impressive because there's no team allocation, there's no VC allocation that we see, at the moment, and there's different conflicting information all over the place. So this could all change. But what we could see from their point of view and their market makers, so they're just really looking at the landscape and preparing for competitives, like in other games that they want to launch, is that 1.8% were market makers. about 0.6% went to like the early reward people, the landowners, and everyone that's been part of the early crew, and then 0.32% was farmed within the first few days, which is a large amount, which is probably why they changed it instantly. Like, whoa, already half of what we gave to our early rewards just got taken up in a few days. Let's just go ahead and tweak that number real quick. So yeah, I think what's impressive about it is that they're creating what looks like value for people to start working towards. And that incentivizes you to play an early access game and, start farming, etc., which is cool. Like I like how I like this entire space is that you can use tokens to incentivize people to play. And the question is, once you turn off the faucet or when you slow down things, do they stick around? Are they there because they wanted to be there, or were they there just to farm? And if you can continue to do that cycle over and over again, which in most games you're doing like campaigns and like giveaways and questing and like all kinds of other things to kind of test retention. This is, another way of doing it in Web3, but for free instead of having to pay like a retargeting campaign or some crazy ad prices and all these other things that go into like actual Web2 game acquisition and Web3 as well, just game acquisition period. So yeah, I find it to be an interesting launch. No clue where it's going to land. I think we're far from knowing where it's going to land.
Mate, can I just say that anyone that's listening in this space, like often you get given information and you're like, oh, cool, yeah, you listen. The alpha that is being shared here right now, the perspectives that are unbiased, that are looking at both the positive and the negative, this is so valuable. And you are so right. And Wesley, you are bringing up such a vital point about the tokenomics, but it's not typical or traditional tokenomics. I mean, they've got a patented layer 2 that's got 2 different patents on it. They've got smart contracts that are locked down. They've got APIs that they've shut down, which I actually don't mind because it stops some abuse. But it is a very, very centralized system, which is...
This space was downloaded via spacesdown.com. Visit to download your spaces today.
Okay, I don't mind that. I think that often in decentralized networks, the people cause the problem. And I love the communities, but let's be honest, most communities are their own worst enemy. What I'm seeing right now and what's fascinating, and this goes back to the point I made earlier, it's not a free-to-play game for the economy. It is a free-to-play game if you just want to clear dungeons and play and enjoy the dungeons. It is a pay-to-play or pay-to-earn. So if you want to earn some of the asset, and the only way to mint this token is by playing the game. And if you want to earn that, you have to pay a premium currency. And as someone who is a large holder of assets and also someone who is playing the game actively and grinding for that top spot on the leaderboard, I can tell you right now that people are initially throwing things in and, yeah, I'm just going to buy this and buy that and I'm going to do this and, oh crap, I've just spent $1,000 on premium tokens. I better wind my neck in and stop boosting everything because actually that's not a good idea. To the point where now the token's starting to slip a bit and people are going, whoa, hold on a minute, this gravy train's ending quite quickly. Of course the token's overvalued right now. It launched at 7 cents. And one thing I've seen from a perspective inside the game is that a lot of the crafting recipes were designed, I believe, with a lower value on the token. And because that token price is higher, the crafting now is so expensive. It's more expensive to craft an item in the game than to just go and buy it on the secondary market right now. And the reason that people are crafting still is because they're getting leaderboard points. And there's like a $20 million leaderboard prize at the moment. And whilst there's not VCs and whilst there's not lockups on the tokens, there is still vesting and there are still cliffs coming. Because the leaderboard, which is running for 3 months, at the end of each month, there's going to be, like, first place on a leaderboard is getting 1 million tokens. That's like, yesterday that was valued at $250,000 for first place alone. What are those people going to do with those tokens? Like, I mean, I got an airdrop of, I think it was about $4,000. You're damn right I sold that the second I got it at 30 cents. Because I'm not stupid. I know it's overvalued. That token doesn't belong at 30 cents and it will come down, and that's fine. And the people in the moment in the community that are complaining, oh, you've nerfed it. Like, people on day one were getting like 300 big time a dungeon. They were making like $100 an hour. Amazing. enjoy it while it lasts, but you need to understand it's not going to last long because it's not sustainable. And so anyone that got in at that early point and made the most of it, great, good for you, well done. You can't now complain, oh, you need to give me that back. It's not sustainable. And as was mentioned, the point, are people going to continue to play once those incentives are turned off? Because it's much easier to add things and take away. When you take away incentives, it hurts people. There's a lot of FUD. Are they going to be able to ride that through this launch? And at the end of the first month, I'm really fascinated to see, once those leaderboard prizes are paid out, I'm expecting a cliff. And I'm expecting a cliff for the next 3 months until this token price gets back down to that 1 cent mark where I think it rightly belongs. But we'll see.
What do you think this world would have looked like if they didn't launch a token, but they launched everything else? Meaning, like, you just remove the press release, remove this like value that you may be trying to extract, but you still have the crafting, you still have the leaderboard points, etc. Do you think it'd be a completely different noise right now?
I think that the only way Web3 games have been able to market so many daily active users is through the earning potential. Let's be honest, Web3 is a wet dream for game developers. It's just an instant tap for players. But the downside to that is that those players' sentiments turn very quickly once they realize that it's not sustainable. And so it's a double-edged sword, right? Do you want those daily active users to hype up your metrics, to sell this to VCs, to be able to pump how good your game is, the vanity rather than sanity? And are you willing and able to deal with the fallout of that and prepare yourself, because it will come? I think if it launches as a game without crypto, I do still think it is a genuinely viable game that people will play. Is it going to compete with some of these top tier game studios like Starfield, etc.? No, not at all. Is it going to sit on Steam as one of those million games that no one's ever heard of? No, I don't think it will. It will sit somewhere in the middle. But yes, because of Web3, it has a platform to take it to the next level. And let's be honest, there's some good stuff in Web3, but most of it's been a shit show. So the bar's really low right now. I mean, do you know what? All you need to do is deliver on a promise and you've made it. You don't even need a good game. You just need to have integrity and hold a timeline. If you can project manage, you can do better than most of the games that are currently live. So I think that there's definitely potential for it, but they are going to get backlash, and I don't know how they're going to deal with it. Like in the Discord, I sit in the Discord not to procrastinate, but I like to get community sentiment. And the community sentiment right now, and I can vouch for this, is that the moderators are doing the best job they can, and they're doing an incredible job, but they are moderators. The support team and the leadership team are not communicating through some very vital problems that are happening right now. People spending $750 on a box, they were more than happy to announce on Twitter that box sold out in 60 seconds. What they didn't announce was that some people still haven't got that box. What they haven't announced is that people were oversold that box and haven't got their refund yet. What they haven't announced is that some people got their accounts banned because of some malicious activity and haven't been able to play for 4 days. And none of that has been addressed by the leadership team. And the moderators are doing the best they can, but they've got some real server issues with lag and rubber banding and performance issues. And they've got some real support issues that they need to get on top of, which might just be a scaling issue. You know, they definitely got a lot more attention than they were expecting, and no different to what we saw in Axie when it blew up. The question is how quickly and how agile can they respond to this, and how do they deal with this? Because this right now is the focal point on whether they're going to make it or not, in my opinion.
It's cool that you're bringing it up, because it's actually so simple to be transparent. You know, it's so fucking simple, and it really just sucks when like you just don't just update and be honest. Like, we're having issues. This is what's happening. We will update you, even if you don't know when it's going to get fixed, because that's the main issue, is like when your team doesn't know what's like, when is this going to be resolved, because everything's on fire, which is probably what's happening. And I've been there. I know it sucks, but it's exciting. It sucks. And but you need to tell people that you're still working on it, and that these issues are known and they are important. And you're right, man. It's just a tweet away to kind of give that confidence that they care and that they're working on it. So yeah, I mean, it sounds like just in terms of comms, like hiring somebody to like just focus on comms, from making sure the tokenomics make sense from a Binance and the website to, when there's something going on, like there's continuous communication. I really do think that customer success is, or customer like communication is, or customer excellence is really what it is super critical, super critical.
Yeah, if I can add on a few points there, I think Steve brought up a few things I was going to touch on. Decentralization is a funny one in gaming, first of all, because I've been asked in spaces before when I'm talking about Web3 gaming, and someone on the crypto side usually asks about, how is this game going to be decentralized? And my answer is usually like, I don't think gamers really care if it's decentralized, right? That's a very crypto mindset. My computer's pinging in the background. That's a very crypto mindset. And I think actually for a game economy, being centralized, especially at first, has a lot of benefits, right? Because they need to balance things. Like a game is all about balancing the characters, right? Especially if you're going to introduce new characters, if you got tokens that are being output, and like the crafting, there's a big one there too, right? One thing Axie always said they wanted to do, and they still haven't been able to do, is get breeding to adjust dynamically to the price and what's going on in the market, right? Because with the token fluctuating, it doesn't make sense to have breeding, or in this case crafting, always cost the same thing, because like Steve said, you could just buy the item way cheaper on the marketplace than you could ever craft it, right? And so in an ideal world, these costs for crafting would adjust, and now that's difficult, right? And like I said, it's something that Axie's always wanted to do, and many games have said they're going to do, but I haven't actually seen it done yet, right? And so on the technical side, I don't know what the barrier is there, but there's definitely something to it. And like in terms of the pay to play element, right? I think the key around that of pay to play is the pay aspect has to be bigger than the earning aspect, right? That's how you keep this balance, because not everyone can win. There's no way that everyone walks. It's like, I don't want to say it's a zero sum game, but in some sense it kind of is. And the leaderboards is a really good point to bring up, because leaderboards are a big element of this, and that comes down to skill, right? When you can put skill, when you have a game as big time, and you have mechanics that are broad, and it's much more than like, click a button and roll a dice kind of Web3 game that we've seen before, where it's entirely chance. There's an element here where the best players of the game, and yes, there's some grindy elements, there's some time to, there's some referral elements and etc., but it comes down to skill, right? And when you can pay the best players in the game, the ones who actually get good at the game, the most money, and everyone's paying to play, but only the people that actually are the top of the leaderboard, the ones that are going into the esports teams, some of the best streamers are actually the ones that end up making a profit, then you can have a very balanced economy, right? Where it's fun, so everyone enjoys paying to play. And then if you do well, and there's set up this hope where everyone hopes they can get better and eventually do well and eventually be profitable, right? And you have these goals, and you have a game that's deep enough to enable this, which I think Big Time does, then I do think in that aspect there's a lot of interesting parts to potentially them having a sustainable play to earn, in a sense, right? Where not everyone can earn, but the best players can, right? And that's the important. And when everyone pays into the pot, there's a pot there that that the best players can take from. So another one interesting point that I was going to bring up too is like the backlash and some of the server, like it's interesting to see when you look through Discord, and there's some discontent, right? There's some discontent from people who thought they could earn more than they are, or they have issues, like you said, with minting the boxes at $750 and stuff like that. And I'm curious, it's something I brought up too before. I'm curious to see the backlash from the Web2 side of things. And I'd like to hear other people's opinions on this, because I think Big Time is a game that's optimized for PC players, the RPG world. It's a very Western audience in a sense as well, this kind of game. And these are the kind of gamers that really dislike NFTs in a sense. And I think with Big Time being very focused on a lot of the talk being focused around the NFTs and the tokens, I'm curious to see how the Web2 community will take this game down the road, right? Yes, they're in pre-alpha, but eventually they're going to be targeting gamers, because outside of Web3, which is a very, very small audience, there's a very large untapped resource of gamers that might enjoy this game. But are they going to be turned off in the long run because they look up Big Time and they see 100 videos talking about tokens and NFTs, right? That's something I'm curious about, and I don't know if anyone else has an opinion on this, but I think there's some something to be said about launching play to earn games when you're trying to eventually cater to a much bigger audience, to be that, you know, middle of the pack Steam game, maybe top of the pack Steam game where you have enough users. Like most of them aren't in Web3 right now. And so a lot of games are doing the opposite, right? They're having a game, it's fun, and then introducing Web3 elements later. Whereas Big Time is doing this relatively early, and I would say quite different from a lot of the Web3 games we're seeing right now that are building.
I think that they are gonna just build until it becomes a thing. Not sure if there's a bit of lag here, but it's what I mean by that is that an MMO is a journey. It's something that, like, when if I was part of an MMO team and you know, Earn Alliance, you know, decides, you know, for example, to invest in an MMO or something like that, it's a decade long vision, right? It's something that you will be around for a very long time. You know, I'm talking to some of the big studios right now, and they're like, yeah, 100 to 500 million dollar budgets for some of these MMOs that, you know, are being made, and it's crazy. And you look at something like Paella in the Web2 space that just launched their, they call it Cozy MMO. It was about 60, 70 million VC bucks that went into that before they got live, right? So in the traditional sense of what MMOs are doing right now. So I think the people who are doing what I believe is right now is go Web 2 and create a layer of Web 3 underneath the hood that people could discover and slowly convert over. But it's not about Web 3. It's not about NFTs. It's not about the marketplace. It's not about earning. It's just something that kind of is the hardcore players will discover and realize, like, whoa, there's actually this entire economy. I just found some gold, is how I like to describe it. I think that's going to help us get adoption in the next 18 to 24 months. But a game like Big Time, I mean, now this is a perfect time for me to mention my favorite feature of the game right this second, is that when you look at another character in game and you look at like what they have and you highlight over their weapons, you're like, oh, that looks really sexy. There's a buy button. And when you click that, it takes you to the marketplace. It shows you the floor price, like what it is. That is Web3 MMOs. Like that's what I was excited to see. And it's so cool to see that they're doing that today. And that's going to be freaking huge in 5 years from now. So I think I think they have enough money to just keep going. And now they're making more money. So yeah, I think they're just going to go until it actually becomes a thing where the traditional players you're talking about, Wesley, will eventually be like, oh wow, I'm really into this now, and I can go into this game who's completely native, and it would feel normal.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I think, you know, I also don't think the right answer, there is no right answer, right? Because we're all so early in the Web3 gaming space and everyone's trying to, their go to market is all a little different, right? And so I think that Big Time launching the token right now, when so many games are like, nah, we decided to push the token back a year, was an interesting play, right? And I'm, if anything else, I'm just curious to see how this plays out, right? I'm very curious to see how Big Time's going to do versus the MMO that doesn't launch their token this year, pushes it back a year and a half, and has, you know, launches their beta without any NFT access because they want to try it that way first. I think there's different approaches to this, and there is no right answer, right? Maybe in 10 years we'll know what the right answer was, but we definitely don't know what it is now. So I think it's definitely an interesting case study, if nothing else. And I'm curious to see how this goes.
Yeah, I'm curious why they launched their token at the same time. I mean, it all makes sense to kind of hype everything up at the exact same moment. And that's why I was kind of asking, like, what would have happened if the token didn't launch right now and they had everything else, just the crafting, the leader, but they have so much. And I think if I were them, I would have not launched the token. I would have held it back a month and see what would have happened with the current economy without that token. Because correct me if I'm wrong, Steve, like I don't really see much utility yet. Like it looks like it's very speculative of like what you're going to be able to use it in the future. And I'm sure it's going to be grand in terms of like all the different syncs that they can come up with in the future. But I really dug deep and I couldn't really find anything. It's like end game currency that I don't know what to do with yet. But if they didn't have that, I would still be crafting and working up the leaderboard. I feel like it. I'm curious what you think on both the utility side and like, would you actually be playing without a token, Steve?
Yeah, great question. I mean, we were playing without a token, so there absolutely is a way to play this without a token. I think it's fascinating the way they've launched it. I'm interested as to why as well. I think because no one else is, sometimes, doing the opposite to everyone else gets attention, and they've definitely got attention. I think from a marketing perspective, it's great. The backlash could hurt them, and I don't know if they've considered that. I hope they have, and I hope they've got a plan for that, and I trust that. But look, people that bought into this game initially, like I was one of the early investors, right? I was sold the concept that space was going to be the way that this game was going to be. Let's just say the investors' angle was that space was going to be valuable. And then they changed it. And all of a sudden, space is valuable, but now you need workshops. And actually, it's the workshops that are valuable, but you need the space for the workshops. But nobody who was an early investor bought the workshops. And what's fascinating is only a week ago, these workshops were selling for $10 or $20. But because everyone thought the game was dead, literally 2 weeks ago, people were like, this game's dead, it's never launching. And then those $20 assets that you could have gone and swept the floor, and you could have spent $1,400, you could have swept the floor, and then not even a week later, they're selling for $400. You could have made 40 grand on that. So there were people that made great money on that. There are other people that bought at the top at the start that are still down. So there's that managing expectations, right? And trying to balance that. And yeah, there are people that come into the game. I mean, I was selling these hourglasses at $30 for an hourglass. It cost me $1.50 to make it. And I was selling it for $30. Like, why am I not going to do that all day long while the opportunity is there, right? But of course, I know that's not going to last. I don't expect it to. If it lasts a day, I'm grateful. If it lasts 2, I'm laughing. If it lasts 3 days, I'm booking a plane and I'm on holiday and someone else can manage it for me. But as far as I'm concerned, it's a limited thing. So the people that are crying right now and saying, you need to bring these rewards back. No, you just need to appreciate you got lucky and you got an opportunity that's no longer there. And that's the early mover's advantage, right? So I think that launching that and building up that hype, as long as they can manage that expectation, which they're struggling with a bit at the moment with the being overwhelmed and the challenges, but if they can manage that, I think it's going to be fascinating, because the utility at the moment, and if you look at it from a token, an economics or a token perspective, you won't see it. But in order to earn, you need to go into these dungeons. And a lot of these dungeons have got entry requirements that you need the NFT to enter the dungeon. So you can't even earn the token without the NFT, which you need to craft. So there's a whole circular loop here that rewards like the people that are playing the game are the ones that are going to get paid. If I want to craft something because I want to be able to take part in this economy, but I don't want to sit there and grind those dungeons, I'm going to pay the people that are grinding those dungeons. That's the pay to earn side of the game, where I'm paying. That's value, because I want to buy something. I want something. It's got utility in the game to allow me to do something, or it just looks good and I want the bragging rights and I want to flex. I mean, I've spent thousands of dollars on skins in Dota that are nothing more than the fact that I can just meme with them or show off to people, because, why not? That's why people buy CSGO skins. That's why people do that stuff. On the other side, there's a whole marketplace. I've been sitting there, and here's the thing. I don't look at what people are doing. I look at what people are going to do. I don't believe that anybody that jumps in now and tries to make money grinding hourglasses or buying these overpriced Time Lords, I don't think they're going to make money. I think that's what you should have been doing 2 weeks ago. But right now, when you look at the marketplace, they even put a tweet out yesterday. And if you read between the lines, they said crafting is going to be a massive part of this game. So you go on the marketplace and you look at crafting, and the forges, the armories, they're on the floor. So what am I doing? Sweeping them up. Why am I doing that? Because Time Wardens were $10 2 weeks ago, and now they're $400. I mean, they've come back down now. They're now $250, but they're still very much up from where they were. So what could happen in the future when utility is required? Yes, the forges, the armories, those things are going to be valuable. Now, there's a lot of people, because this whole leaderboard is racing to get this unique, the one of one. Can we craft that one of one? But how many people have done the research? Like, for example, if you want to craft a one of one item in this game, you need to spend, this is not including the time required, because this takes big time to do things, but the whole concept of you spending the premium currency to craft the items, you need to spend over $60,000 in premium currency, which is not speculative. It's a locked price to craft that unique. And that is not including the time required to do it. I'm not going to be crafting that. I don't want to be spending that sort of money. But how many people look at a piece of art in a museum and go, this sold at auction for $10 million. You've got to start thinking of these one-of-one cosmetic uniques as a store of wealth for some people. Now, the only way that a cosmetic item, in my opinion, holds value is if people play the game. So they have to make a great game first. Because if players don't play this game, then the cosmetics are worthless. So everything is hinged around that, in my opinion. Now, the question is, the real question, can they use the hype that they've created to generate the momentum to get the real players in and survive the backlash that's going to come of the people that bought expecting to make a quick buck and then found out they can't? That's the $1 million question.
Loving it, man. That was a lot of alpha, and I hope those floor prices don't change from all that information. Shifting gears real quick, I know we're up on past the hour here, even though with the late start. I do want to just answer a few questions in the thread. I'll start with the first one real quick. I did see, why are there country restrictions, and for the game, and I'll take a quick stab at it. It's just there's a lot of different laws. The U.S., for example, has the SEC that's really pushing tokens right now. Every country kind of treats tokens and utilities and NFTs and securities and all this stuff. We don't need to get into the dirty details of it. But the main reason why they would be blocking a country as a business is because they're uncomfortable with serving to that country at that moment. It could change in the future. They might, get better legal team or a legal team to kind of look at that particular jurisdiction, because everything is different all over the world when you're building a global company. So just a heads up, like, it's not because they hate you if you're the one that's currently blocked, but it's just the way business is, and all it could take is just one country to really fuck up your entire business. But happy if I got that off, or if anybody else has anybody to add on that, on why country restrictions exist.
I think you hit the nail on the head. It's all comes down to the legal entity and legal issues around it. The one thing I was going to say is, don't feel singled out or don't feel like one game hates you, because it's pretty common, unfortunately. Like, a lot of the games, especially if they're in countries like the US, just won't be able to serve certain countries. And it's not big time specific. You'll come across this as you try to play more games and try to do more with tokens and more with crypto. You'll find this quite often, that certain countries get restricted, and it varies. Like, even in being in Japan myself, sometimes there's certain protocols I can't use in certain games that won't allow me to get the NFTs or the tokens.
I mean, even outside of crypto, I couldn't play Escape the Tarkov out of Hong Kong for whatever reason. That's a Web2 game without crypto, and I'm still wondering why I can't play it. I mean, I had to play it at a friend's house in the US when I went back home, back to where I'm from originally. I've been in Hong Kong for 10 years now, but anyways, yeah, it's weird how it all works out. So someone's asking, can't the token just be pegged to a USD value? Then calculations would be much easier. What are you guys' thoughts on pegging?
What type of pegging are we talking? No, sorry. I would say that in terms of thinking about crypto, one of the things that I believe, is look at your parents' generation, and I'm talking specifically from the UK. Other countries, different philosophies, different cultures, but in the UK, my parents' generation was pretty much what's called the 40-year rule. You work 40 hours a week for 40 years of your life, and if you can save up 40% of your income, you can retire with a house that's paid off, right? That was what was sold. That was the dream. And if you paid off your mortgage by the time you retired, yeah, congratulations, you've won life. Our generation doesn't seem to really like that, and I know my daughter's generation doesn't care for it at all. Mainly because it's not really viable or possible, given the economy, for people to be able to just go out and buy a house these days. So we still want to be able to protect ourselves. We still want to create wealth. We still want to know that for a rainy day we've got money in the bank. So how do we do that when we can't buy things like a house? And also, the government can come and take your house away from you. We've seen it. We know that. You'll have nothing can be happy, right? That's the motto of the Great Reset. It's all about this economic awakening, if you like, this understanding through social media that you are actually in control and you can do something about it. And I believe that crypto as an entity is an asset. It can be an asset. And the value of the coin, of the token itself, doesn't need to go up. the value of the coin itself just needs to be stable, because in time, the US dollar or the fiat currency will go down. And as long as the fiat currency goes down, then purchasing power increases, which means, you know, when you buy a house in 10 years' time, that house is worth more money. The house didn't suddenly get better. The dollar got worse. The pound got worse. So purchasing power is what is going to hold the value of your assets. I genuinely believe that that is why it is good to not always peg, because I think that while stability is nice and in the utility token we want that, I also think that building a kind of economy that's decoupled from the traditional banking system is a way forward where we can actually start to have a more realistic store of wealth into micro assets that haven't otherwise been available in the past. That's just my thoughts.
Yeah, just to add a couple points to that, I think there's also a logistical point behind not pegging the token, because let's be real, the easiest way to peg a token is to have a physical dollar behind it in reserve, right? You want your token worth $1, you want 1 million tokens, then you need to put $1 million into a vault somewhere in you know, actual hard money. And that's difficult in itself, right? That's why things like Luna, as much as they tried to experiment, didn't work, right? Like they're trying things, and even USDT has a lot of skepticism around it because it's not backed by dollars, in the sense there's a lot of assets in there, and the actual value of those assets is questionable in some cases. So there's an economic issue behind that, right? And the other thing is, in some senses, they may want the token to fluctuate up and down, right? There's other benefits to that besides, you know, as a player, it can be frustrating. But as a team, they may want the early adopters to have a chance to make some money in certain situations, right? They may like the fact that when the token pumps, they get a whole bunch of hype as well. So that there are some benefits to tokens fluctuating, and there are some logistical problems to actually trying to peg the token to a certain currency. So I think there's quite a few reasons why that can be nice on paper, but a lot harder to implement.
And I think also, don't forget, there's 3 currencies in this game. You've got the gold, which is the worthless in-game currency to buy and sell items that has no value. It's just typical gold in the game. You've got the premium currency, which is pegged because, you know, one time crystal is worth 1 cent. We know that because it costs $5 for 500. So that in itself is the premium currency. And then the cryptocurrency is a speculative asset, which it kind of caters for every style, whether you are free to play, whether you just want to buy a set amount of tokens to do some things, to boost some things, to get some basic utilities, or whether you want to go full on degen. You've got the ability to do what suits you.
Love it. Love it. So much alpha in this room. I'm going to end it with the last question here because it is getting late. And yeah, it's just what's somebody's asking here, what is one thing Big Time is doing good and what improvement should be done next? Maybe we just go around the clock and then we'll call it here. So I'll just quickly start. Like, I think what they're doing good right now, and we kind of already covered it right now, is that I think we're seeing one of the best MMORPG foundations being laid here, from like getting my nostalgic MMO, 5,000 hours and Lineage 2 life when I was once upon a time a child, to like seeing what's happening with like raid bosses and fights and farming and just the experience of like community, which is still super early. So I think that's like, just, I could see where that's going to go in the stats and the UI and like all that stuff. It's just coming together. They're doing a good job. And then improvements, I'll just double down on like low hanging fruit. Just be transparent and communicate more. Just let people know what's up, what's the fires. And if you don't know when it's going to get done, then just continue to update people that it's in progress. But yeah, how about we go to Wesley next?
Yeah, you kind of said mostly exactly what I was going to say. I think the thing they're doing best is the game is fun. They've made a game that is actually a game, right? And that's more than you can say about a lot of what's happening in the Web3 gaming space. It's getting better. It's getting in that direction, but Big Time, they have the foundation and the mechanics of something that is fun to play. And that is going to be the essence of whether or not this can last long term. And then in terms of like what they can do better is clarity. Clarity around a few things, like clarity around what's going to happen with the future of the token, and clarity around when this is uncertain, right? If they have the fact that they don't know how they're going to do the rewards distributed over the next 6 months, they're going to play it by ear because they need to make the economy work and keep things somewhat sustainable, then I would come out and say that personally. Just so clarity, and not just that. There's a few aspects, but the more clear and transparent they are, I think that would be the best improvement personally.
I think also, just to add to a point there, and it is a great concept of clarity being added. I might be wrong. This is just my opinion, but I think the reason a lot of the times they can't provide clarity is because I genuinely don't believe they know. I think that they built a plane whilst it was in the air, and they're winging it, and that's okay. We're in a new space. We're doing new things. I don't think they have all the answers, which is why I think they're being a little bit hesitant to put stuff out there. I'm not saying that's right, but I have that vibe. And I'll give you an example, because again, when I was sold the concept of the game, I was sold space, and then that changed, right? Now, all of a sudden, space is valuable, but workshops have utility, which are more valuable, and we weren't sold those at the start. Also, they're changing the game. Like, all of a sudden, it's like this is a cosmetic-based game. Now it's, hold on, those cosmetics will have utility to get into the game. So they're changing things, and I love that because I think they need to do that. But you're right, there needs to be clarity. So in terms of what I think the game's doing right, I'm going to go back to an experience I had with this game that I've not experienced in any other Web3 game yet. Not to say it doesn't exist, I haven't personally experienced it. I've invested in a lot of Web3 games. I've put, not saying this to impress you, but just to impress upon you, I've put over 7 figures into various different Web3 games, and 90% of them have died or are in the gutter. It's no different to any other form of investing. It happens, you put out 10 rods and you hope to catch one fish. You just hope that fish is 10 times better than that's it, right? You want to 10x that one investment that kind of breaks you even. And if you can win on 2 of them, then great, you're in profit. But that's just what traditional investing is like anyway. So I understand that, I accept that. I also support a lot of these games beyond just being an investor. A lot of guilds used to throw money at a game and that was it. Zero communication, just where's my money, bitch, 2 years later. I've actually consistently been there advising the games, been there with the games, helping the games, trying to build the games. It's weird for me because in traditional investing, you put money into something to save time. If I don't want to invest time, I invest money to save time. Web3 is the paradox where the more money I put in, the more time I have to put in to look after that money. It's weird, but that's just how it is. And so what happened is no different to any other Web3 game. I put money into big time, everything tanked, and I went, oh, well, shit happens, tax write-off, as did most other people. But what they did, which surprised me, is I got an email, which I promptly deleted because I thought it was spam, saying I had an airdrop. Now, I ignored it until I got all the hype emails about, hey, we're launching. And I was like, I better just go and pop into my account and have a look. And lo and behold, I had 5 airdrops sitting in my account. I had 13,500 big time tokens from the gameplay and the assets that I bought originally. I had $6,000 worth of NFTs that have been airdropped to me, which I actually was able to sell and draw 10 grand out of that game on the day. And that to me was a way of them saying, you know what, we fucked up. We told you this was going to happen. We didn't deliver. We're going to launch now, but we want to look after you. We can't make you whole, but this is at least our way of saying thanks for being there. I don't know any other game that was able to do that at the moment. Everything else just went into the gutter. So they have my respect for the fact that they're trying. Regardless if they make it or not, that's to be seen. Who knows? But the fact that they did that gave me hope that, they're not just a cash grab. They are actually trying to give back, but they can't, you can't give back for an empty cup. You can only give back from your saucer. You have to fill your cup up first. They have to make money. They have to do these sales. They have to do the hype. I accept that. As long as, and this comes to my point, what I want them to do well, we know that the leaderboard is going to be a huge dump on the market. Are they going to use the millions of dollars that they made from these box sales and all of this hype and the marketplace fees? Because they're taking 5% on marketplace fees, as well as the $100 million they've done in premium currency already. are they going to use that to buy back and burn some of these tokens to then support the economy to stabilize it? Because if they do that, then they're going to have a lot more of my respect and they're going to stabilize things. But we don't know because, again, they need that transparency. We need to know that. So maybe they're just letting it speculate to let all the hype and craziness go on, and they'll do that. Who knows? Anyway, that's what I think they're doing good. They've got my respect because they are delivering and they are pushing forward. And we're seeing updates, we're seeing changes. When things are broken, they're adding more servers. They're actively changing things. Not quick enough for the degens that want their money right now, but definitely for the people that are willing to say, do you know what? We can see change and we can see improvements. On the bad side of things, the challenges, they need more communication. They definitely need to fix the bugs. And there's just a lot of UI issues, a lot of challenges with OpenLoot and the API that connects to the game. You know, you can log in and your NFTs have disappeared and you're running around as a headless character. There's little things that they need to tweak and fix and put out there, I think. Maybe that should have been done before pre-season, but we are where we are. So hopeful, if anything, just excited to see what happens because it's definitely disrupting the space.
Thanks, man. All right. Well, I'm going to pass out over here. Thank you, everyone. I'm blessed to be up here, sharing this space with you guys. Honestly, like this is only what I imagined when I embarked going on full-time Web3 a little over a year ago. So super stoked. Thanks for sharing and being transparent and honest and just giving your guys' opinions. And of course, it was last minute, actually. I just asked about, 36 hours to summon everybody here. So thanks, everyone, for making it happen. Hopefully everybody enjoys the space. And if you have any last words, say your goodbyes. Otherwise, good night.
Yeah, thanks for hosting and organizing this as well. It's been great.
Same thing, guys. Appreciate you. Wesley, keep up those videos. I'm looking forward to seeing your Axie breeding videos 2.0. Let's just support each other. I love it. You guys are amazing. This is awesome. And definitely Coop and Guru, you guys are incredible. Thank you for hosting this. It's amazing to see what we're doing with Vern Alliance. We need these spaces. We need these conversations. So just keep it up, man. You're a legend, and I appreciate you.
Thanks, man. All right, let's get that sound off music. Ryan and everyone else, have a good night, good day, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you're at.